Today I'll be looking at one of the most basic principles of animation, keyframe animations. So stay tuned. Hey guys, my name is Eon and welcome to my Start Animating YouTube channel, the channel that is specifically aimed at everyone that is new to animation. And if that is you, welcome, you are at the right place. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and also click on that little notification bell so that you can get notified every week when I upload a brand new video. And if you are new to animation or you want to start out animation and you have no idea where to begin, well, I've got some great news for you. I've got a free online video training, and it really takes those who have never animated before. It takes you step by step, and by the end of the video you would have created your very own animation. And that is what I want. I want you to start and you'll learn the basics of animation, like keyframe animation, what we're going to look at today, but also so much more. So by the end of the video you will know the basics so that you can go on and continue animating and start creating your own animations. And that is what I want. I want you guys to start animating. So make sure in the description box below there's a link. You can just go there, sign up, and you can take that free video training. And I can't wait to see your animations in a few weeks time. So go and sign up. Now, because this channel is specifically aimed at everyone that is starting out at animation, I thought that maybe it's a good idea to go and look at the basics of animation, the things that you need to know before you can do anything. So today we're going to look at keyframe animation. Now, I know those of you who have animated for a while now, you will look at this video and say, oh man, this is boring. But remember to keep in mind that this channel is also or mainly for those who are just starting out. And maybe in this video I will teach you some principles that will also help you, especially when it comes to timing, stuff like that. So what is keyframe animation? So basically how animation works back in the day with your Disney, they drew 24 pictures per frame or per second. So each picture equals a frame. Okay, so basically if you translate it to your digital animation software that we are using today, you basically each frame or each keyframe is like one image in a old-fashioned drawing. Okay, but what your software does is you say this is your first keyframe, and then maybe you go to your next keyframe, which is maybe keyframe number 24, that equals a second, and then you adjust what you want to happen, and the software will basically add all the pictures in between, all the keyframes, where in the old days the animators had to draw all of those 24 images in between, or the 22 images in between. So that's why it took so long to create an animation back in the day, because they had to draw everything in between. While with software today, the software does that for you. So basically what you want is you want to create your first pose, your second pose, and then your software will do everything in between. But then you also need to think about timing. So let me quickly give you an example here on the computer. Here you will see there's just a basic ball, and at the bottom is my timeline, and you will see here are a bunch of blocks. This is your timeline, and then also you will see there are numbers. So if I go to 24 and my software is set to 24 frames per second, then it means at frame 24 that is 1 second. Okay, so as you can see there's a dot there on the first keyframe, and that is my the circle, this ball. So what I want to do is, let's say I want it to take 1 second to move from that point to maybe round about there. Okay, so let's go to frame 24, and then I can take and I can move it right up to there. Okay, so basically there's a first keyframe and there's a last keyframe, and the animation will now add everything in between, or the software will add everything in between. So let's have a look at it. So if I just drag this, you will see the software basically added all this in between, all the frames in between. So if I press play, that is basically your animation. So that is 1 second. Okay, so in the old days, these 22 frames in between, you had to go and draw it. But now with animation software today, the software does it for you. So you basically always keep in mind with everything, you keep in mind the first frame, the final frame, and then you also need to think how long you want that action to take. So for instance, in this case, it is 24 frames, so it will take 1 second to move to the finishing frame. Okay. Now let's say this is a basic principle that you can always remember. The more frames, the slower an object will move. The less frames, the faster an object will move. Let me quickly give an example. So let's say more frames. So we've got point A and our point B, but let's add more frames. So let's go to 48. I think that is 48. Okay. So basically I've doubled the amount of frames. So technically it will now take 2 seconds for this ball to move from point A to point B. So if I press play, it is moving slower. Let's move this right to frame 130. If I press play, it moves a lot slower. So that is something that you can always keep in mind, that the more frames you add, the slower it will move. Let's go half of 24, so is 12. So let's move this to 12. So this will take half a second now. So it is less frames, and it will move now much faster, as you can see. If I'm going to move it, make it less frames, you can see now it moves a lot faster. So that is something that you can always keep in mind, especially when you need to work on your timing. When you move objects, how long it moves, you can always keep in mind the more frames, the slower the object, the lesser frames, the faster the object. Okay, now let's go and let's delete everything, and I'm just gonna here I've got a character. So let's incorporate what we've learned with keyframe animation to a character. Okay, so again I go to the first frame. So if I press play, nothing happens because there's no keyframe. So let's give this character some movement. Okay, so I select the character, and let's say we want him to jump. So this is just going to be a basic jump movement, so nothing fancy. I just want you guys to see how you apply keyframe animation and what I've showed you with the ball into your character animation. So let's select, the first thing we want to do is we want the character to bend down, but I want his feet. I want to lock all of that first, and let's go to the reason I want to do this is because when I want to now move this character, let's go to hip, and if I want to move it, you will see that will happen. Okay, so his feet is stuck on the ground, and that is what we want. So let's go to frame 20, and we take his hip, and we now want him to bend down. Okay, now let's see, you will see there it added keyframes. So if I go back, it will take him 20 seconds to move down, but that is too slow. You can see that is way too slow. Okay, so what do? If you want it to move faster, you decrease the amount of frames. So let's undo that, and let's go to frame, let's say around about 6. let's do exactly the same thing now, and we do that. Okay, that is much better. I think it's maybe a bit too fast, so let's make it run about 10, and let's undo there, and let's do it again, run about there, and there you go. Okay, let's do that. Okay, and if we press play, that is much better. Okay, but that from here now we can maybe unlock these feet, because he's gonna jump now. But before we do that, let's just change a few things. So let's take his torso. We actually want him to that's not right. I want him to move a little bit, and the hip, I actually want him to move lower. If I can just select the hip. I'm really struggling to select the hip. Let's try again. There you go. So this is actually a bit difficult, because what I need to do is I need to change these, but now my legs will move. So let's do that as well. Select the hip and change the angle, but I need to change the shank as well, like that. Now you'll see basically what I am doing. So the other shank, move it, rotate it back, wrong one, and that is much better. So, and now we can go and select the arms, and let's lift his shoulders a bit as well. Like that. And we can maybe drop his head like that. But now you'll see he is moving, so we want his feet to remain there. So let's move him where he was standing. I'm at the wrong keyframe, so let's do that, and we move him just a little bit higher. Okay, so basically now we've got that sorted. If we press play, he's going down. Now you can maybe let him stay there for 2 frames in that position. So I can just add frames. I double click, just add. So now it will stay in that position for 2 frames. And this is going to, you can also just copy and paste all those keyframes. That's another way you can do it. But I'm almost done. And there you go. So he's remaining in that position in 2 frames. So now, maybe round about there, now he's going to jump. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to straighten his legs. And the other leg as well. now we can lift his neck, and he can also now look. Oh, I'm really struggling. Let me just zoom in a little bit. This will help me select everything easier. Let's try again. That's better. Let's make him look up. And now let's make his arms straight. So this is almost a character that almost like Superman who's going to fly is lifting off. So there you go. Okay, and if you press play, now obviously what we want to do is we want his feet to be at the same place again, because you can see it's there and then it goes back. So let's move him. And if we press play, and then from there you can maybe make him where he jumps. So if we press play now, maybe that's too high. That's two different keyframes, so let's fix that. But you can see when he jumps, it is too slow, so we need to change. That. So let's go to, let's undo, and let's go to round about there, and he jumps. And let's see. And that's a little bit better. Now when he's at the top, now you can bring his body in, and then you can do the same way he's landing. But you kind of get the idea how keyframe animation works. So obviously, remember, the more keyframes, the slower something moves, the lesser the keyframes, the faster it moves. And basically what you want is you want the pose for the first frame and the pose for the second frame. The software will add everything in between, and then what you need to do is you need to adjust the first pose and the second pose, but how many keyframes, so that you can get that timing right. And once you've got that, you can move on. Then this becomes your first pose, and then you go on to the second pose, and then again you make sure your timing is right. Like in my case, the first pose he's standing, the second pose he's moving in, he's about to jump, so he goes down, and then I adjust the timing to make sure that is right. And then from there, the third pose is now he is stretched out jumping, and then again I get that pose right, and then I can drag the keyframes to make sure the timing is right. And that is basically how keyframe animation works. And if I can just show you something else, because on certain keyframes you can also let your character do certain things. So let's say, for instance, when he goes there, I can now change on that keyframe, I can now change his facial expression. So let's close his eyes, and let's give him a like that, and let's drop his like that. So on that specific keyframe, his facial expression will change. And then maybe once he's there, I can now change his facial expression again, and something like that, as an example. So Basically, on certain keyframes, you can also tell the software what it needs to do. So guys, that is keyframe animation in a nutshell. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know if there's other specific areas in animation that you want me to cover in future videos. And I hope if you are new to animation, that you go take that free video training of mine. And also remember to hit that subscribe button and also click on that little notification bell so that you can get notified every week when I upload a brand new video. So till next week, God bless and happy animating.